Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this second session on stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, where we are covering chapter 12 and 13. So yesterday we covered up to text 26 in from chapter 12, titled Birth of Emperor Parikshit. So today we are going to start after that from text number 27. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmedham Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Shabrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Swadvaitam Savadutam Prayana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitam Sham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vesha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patithanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So yesterday, where we finished that the learned brahmanas, they were describing the qualities of Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj was just born, and Yudhishthira Maharaj was asking that what will be his devotional qualities and what will be his kingly qualities, like what as a king how he will be. So where we went through as a devotee, as he was Vishnu Rata, like he was Vishnu is his protector. So as Vishnu is his protector, even from the beginning, from his birth, so definitely he will be a wonderful devotee. And in terms of king, there are all the it has been as it's described that all he will have qualities from all the renowned kings from the history, from the dynasty, that he will have all the great qualities. So then in text number 27, after describing his qualities as a king, the sages continues that after hearing about his death, which will be caused by a bite of a snake bird sent by a son of a brahmana, he will get himself freed from all material attachment and surrender unto the personality of Godhead, taking shelter of him. So I just want to go through for this next couple of verses the purport, because it's so wonderful that how Srila Prabhupada actually explained. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada saying, material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. So I'll just repeat again. Material attachment and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord go ill together. Material attachment means ignorance of transcendental happiness under the shelter of the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord while existing in the material world is a way to practice one's transcendental relation with the Lord. And when it is matured, one gets completely free from all material attachment and becomes competent to go back home, back to Godhead. Maharaj Parikshit, being specially attached to the Lord from the beginning of his body in the womb of his mother, was continuously under the shelter of the Lord, and the so-called warning of his death within 7 days from the date of the curse by the Brahmana's son was a boon to him to enable him to prepare himself to go back home, back to Godhead. Since he was always protected by the Lord, he could have avoided the effect of such a curse by the grace of the Lord, but he did not take such undue advantage for nothing. Rather, he made the best use of bad bargain. For 7 days continuously, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source, and thus he got the shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord by the opportunity. So, such wonderfully has been explained here that material world, it's basically it's a bad bargain, right? So we have to use, we have to do a best use of it to out of the bad bargain. We are Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, the three miseries, all the material, all the different kind of natural forces, which everything is out of our control. So many things are happening uh, outside of our control, so that we have to have some kind, we have to have some kind of um, help required here to make sure that we are in the right path. So that's why whatever situation comes, we just have to see that how we can engage ourselves through that situation, how we can engage ourselves in the of the Lord. So Parikshit Maharaj example like this wonderful, that he has been cursed by this Brahmana boy, and then he would have because he knew that the Lord is always with him, so he could have take that advantage and ask for to get out of that curse, but he didn't do it. And because it's mentioned, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that he didn't want to take the undue advantage. It's very important to understand. Sometimes we in our life we actually get some kind of position where we have advantages, right? Where maybe other people, they don't have that advantages. But we have to make sure that we don't take undue advantage, because whatever situation it is and whatever has provided us that opportunity to get that undue advantage, if you take undue advantage out of it, then that can be taken away within a blink of an eye. So that's why it's very important that whatever we receive, we always think that this is because of because it has been given to us so that we can serve the Lord properly, rather than serving ourselves. So it's very important to remember this point. And Parikshit Maharaj, irrespective of being the Lord, the king of the entire universe, he didn't take that undue advantage, and he just assessed the situation, and then he found out what is the best thing to do, and the best thing was to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days, so that he can be he by listening, when he is about to die, he's listening to the glories of the Lord, so that he can go back to the Godhead. So that is the most glorious way of passing from this material world. Then in text 28, after inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. So again, if we just read the purport of this. Material knowledge means ignorance of the knowledge of one's own self. Philosophy means to seek after the right knowledge of one's own self, or the knowledge of self-realization. Without self-realization, philosophy is dry speculation or a waste of time and energy. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge of one's own self, and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from the material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. So here we see that why it was mentioned that he is having a lot of fearlessness, because when someone is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, what happened that that all the material attachments that they come out of all the material attachments. And the material attachments are the source of all the fear, all the anxiety, and that actually bind us to do some abominable things that we see that people in this material, kind of scenes, different kind of like actions which are like really unheard of or unthought of before. But where those comes from, those all come from the material attachments with different attachments. Like the main one, as we discussed yesterday, like the Kamini and Kanchan, like from the from attraction towards opposite sex, and then the other one is from gold, from money. So if so, the only way of getting out of that is by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. And then if someone does that, then there is no more fear. Then you can you can proceed in your life without any fear, because once you have listened to Srimad Bhagavatam and the realization is there that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then where is the fear? There is nothing, no fear to lose of any, because you know that if Krishna is with us, then what we have to gain? We don't have to gain anything else. So that's why that fearlessness is very important point that here to understand. Continuing reading, the material world is fearless. Its prisoners are always fearful. The prison house. In the prison house, no one can violate the jail rules and regulation. And violating the rules means another term of extension of prison life. Similarly, we in this material existence are always fearful. The fearfulness is called anxiety. Everyone in the material world, in all species and varieties of life, is full of anxieties, either by breaking or without breaking the laws of nature. Liberation or mukti means getting relief from these constant anxieties. This is possible only when the anxiety is changed to the devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the chance to change the quality of anxiety from matter to spirit. I'm reading that line again. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the chance to change the quality of anxiety from matter to spirit. This is done in the association of a learned philosopher like self-realized Shukadev Goswami, the great son of Sri Vyasadeva. Maharaj Parikshit, after receiving the burden of his dead, took advantage of this opportunity by association with Sukadev Goswami and achieved the desired result. So it's very wonderful to find out here that the anxiety, the quality of anxiety will still be there. Like in spiritual world also there is anxiety. Like what kind of anxiety they are? Like, Parikshit Maharaj, he had this anxiety that he saw Krishna the time of his birth, like before his time of birth when he was in the womb. But then he was always hankering for Krishna. He saw him once in that form, but then he always wanted to find out, he wanted to say that where is Krishna. So this is an anxiety, but this is spiritual anxiety. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kanaya Nattashala, like when he went and he saw Krishna, glimpse of Krishna, and that's it. Then for the rest of his life, he was just running behind Krishna. So that's the material anxieties that just convert into spiritual anxiety. It is which is the most beautiful thing for any devotee to have that feeling, that have that anxiety, that time to time we go through all these anxieties that our material life, different kind of anxieties, we have social anxieties, we have family anxieties, we have work anxieties, so many things. But as a devotee, we can feel that if we take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and we see that the changes will come in a way that those social, then family, then all the other kind of anxiety, they will start to go down. Like, even though some issues comes, we are not anxious about it, but we started getting anxious about that. What am I doing to serve the Lord? What am I doing? Like, what service am I doing? Like, the time is going past. Like, it's our, like, we are growing older and older day by day. But what service we are doing? Like, what is the purpose of my life? Like, how I can use my life in the service of the Lord? So kind of anxieties. But those are anxieties. Those doesn't create our, like, the all the physical diseases. The material anxieties, they create diseases. Spiritual anxiety, they actually don't create diseases. They actually creates more and more happiness. And it's like, it's when you heard first time, you'll just say, how come anxiety create happiness? But that's how it happens. Because Krishna, like, you are thinking that anxiety, you are what you are trying to do is like to serve the Lord. And when you are continuously, and he is the reservoir of happiness, of blissfulness. So it just like, if you go anywhere near to him and you are thinking about him, bit by bit of those, like, bliss and happiness will come. And you will see that those anxieties will not put you into depression. Those anxieties will not put you into like, will not make you sick. So that is the biggest, like, the change. And it's only we can feel it if we take this path. If we take the shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, we keep, like, reading Srimad, then only we can see that this change. So I'll just finish this purport. So there is a short of imitation of this reciting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam by professional men, and their foolish audiences thinks that they will get free from the clutches of material attachment and attain the life of fearlessness. Such imitative hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is a caricature only, and one should not be misled by such a performance of Bhagavatam Saptaha undertaken by ridiculously greedy fellows to maintain an establishment of material enjoyment. So again, Srila Prabhupada is like, after putting that point, Srila Prabhupada is also reminding us that, but don't take up Srimad Bhagavatam just for the sake of taking it up. Like, just to get some position in material society, that look, I'm a learned scholar, I read Srimad Bhagavatam, I remember 50 verses, and I can, like, whatever you want, I can just recite that verses. But that's not going to give you any advantage. That's not going to take out that anxiety. That will be more anxiety that, oh, today I have to go and give class there. What if I can't remember this, like, shloka? What if they think that I'm not a good speaker? Oh, I'm very anxious about it. But that's completely different. Then again, you are satisfying your ego rather than serving the Lord. Like, when we are reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are presenting it to someone, like, here, as we are going through these sessions where we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and for everyone's benefit, this is a service. This is not something that we are promoting, like, ourselves. It's promoting Srimad Bhagavatam and the glories of the Lord. So keep continuing on that. So then the next verse, text number 30. So his son would become famous in the world as Parikshit examined, because he would come to examine all human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus he would come to constantly contemplate him. This exact verse is actually the source of the greatness of Parikshit Maharaj. So why is that? Let's just read the Maharaj Parikshit, for as he was, got an impression of the Lord even in the womb of the. Thus his contemplation on the Lord was constantly with him. Once the impression of the transcendental form of the Lord is fixed in one's mind, one can forget him in any circumstance. Child Parikshit, after coming out of the womb, was in the habit of examining everyone to see whether he was the same personality whom he first saw in the womb. But no one could be equal to or more attractive than the Lord, and therefore he never accepted anyone. But the Lord was constantly with him by such examination. And thus Parikshit was always engaged in the service of the Lord by remembrance. So this is, we see that such a wonderful example of smaranam, like one of the 9 limbs of bhakti. Here how Parikshit Maharaj is serving the Lord is by remembering the Lord. That okay, I have seen the Lord like that. And then he was always reaching out to everyone and trying to find out, oh, where is he? Where is he? And he couldn't find anyone like that. But here was mentioning, but during this journey, during this constantly, like how he was examining pariksha, like parikshit comes from the word pariksha, which is examination, examining everyone. But during that, the Lord is always. So that's why, he was always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord by remembrance. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks in this connection that every child, if given an impression of the Lord from his very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord like Maharaj Parikshit. One may not be as fortunate as Maharaj Parikshit to have the opportunity to see the Lord in the womb of his mother, but even he is not so fortunate. He can be made so if the parent of the child desire him to be so. So this is now, we are just going to hear something that Srila Prabhupada is acting in his personal life. That's why this verse is so wonderful that you don't often find verses where Srila Prabhupada actually gave his own personal example. But here Prabhupada is actually giving his own personal example that how actually that for the specifically for the children, if they're born in a devotional family, how it is very much a big advantage for them. He's not trying to glorify himself, Prabhupada. Here he's just giving the practical example that if someone born in a devotee family, so from the time of the birth, they are seeing that their parents are serving the Lord, how it becomes a big advantage for them to progress in the spiritual life. So that's why it's like Srila Prabhupada here is saying, this is such a wonderful section. There is a practical example in my personal life in this connection. My father was a pure devotee of the Lord, and when I was only 4 or 5 years old, my father gave me a couple of forms of Radha and Krishna. In a playful manner, I used to worship these deities along with my sister, and I used to imitate the performance of a neighboring temple of Radha Govinda. By constantly visiting this neighboring temple and copying the ceremonies in connection with my own deities of play, I developed a natural affinity for the Lord. My father used to observe all these ceremonies befitting my position. Later on, these activities were suspended due to my association in the schools and colleges, and I became completely out of practice. But in my youthful days, when I met my spiritual master, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, again I revived my old habit, and the same playful deities became my worshipable deities in proper regulation. This was followed up until I left the family connection, and I am pleased that my generous father, gave me the first impression, which was developed later into regulative devotional service by his divine grace. Maharaj Prahlad also advised that such impressions of a godly relations must be impregnated from the beginning of childhood. Otherwise, one may miss the opportunity of the human form of life, which is very valuable, although it is temporary, like others. So such a wonderful example here. I was fortunate to go to this temple, this Radha Govinda temple in Kolkata, where they still have like where Srila Prabhupada actually used to go and play when he was when he was a child, and his deities are like in the Kolkata ISKCON temple. So it's just like it just gave us a perspective that like not everyone will be fortunate to have a darshan of the Lord in the womb, right? But if we make arrangement for our next generation, that they are always having this they are like having the darshan of the Lord, they can come to the temple, they can see how the artists are performing, because the children, as natural as their behavior is, they're very much into imitating things. So if you see like the children, like when I'm doing arti in my home, my 2-year-old daughter, she comes and sometimes if I'm coming for the arti, she comes to me and she just shows me like this, right? Like when she was just telling me that, okay, you are here for arti, because she sees that when I'm doing my arti and I'm doing all the mudras. So that's how they see the things, and they they impersonate it, and then it's actually that impression remains in their mind for ages. So even for young children, when they're growing up, time to time, if they don't practice it, but at some point of time they again come back and do that practice. So which Srila Prabhupada here gave the example that when he was in school and college he couldn't do it, but then when after he met his spiritual master, then he started his activities. So this is such a wonderful example. I just thought that to share and read this purport with all of you, so that it actually gives us that the way that actually the for any next generations, that what if we are in Grihastha ashram, what needs to be done for them, that we have to make sure that they have this opportunity to see the Lord, to attend the programs, to attend the artis. Is very important for them. Even if we personally couldn't manage to do it, but it's very important that they can do it, because when they can do it, it will put such that image in their mind in that early age, and that will go on still their old ages, until the end of their life. So yeah, so just coming back to there, that how Parikshit Maharaj actually he actually said this is how he examined everyone, and he was examining that everyone, where is Krishna. So, and then he was growing up, and then the next part of this chapter is actually describing that how after that Yudhishthira Maharaj is actually he considering performing horse sacrifice, so Ashwamedh Yagna, because it says, and in text number 32, that just at this time King Yudhishthira was considering performing a horse sacrifice to get freed from the sins incurred from fighting with kinsmen. But he became anxious to get some wealth, for there was no surplus funds outside of fines and tax collection. So after that massive battle of Kurukshetra, there was no money left. So, and to organize a Ashwamedh Yagna was a very expensive thing. So but his purpose here, that he wants to do that yagna, because as per that age, that if you want to get freed from sin or material bondages or anything, you have to perform that yagna. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada in this purport saying that, but for this age of Kali, if somebody have this realization that yes, my life has been I've committed so many things. If I have to get free from him, from all those sins, then it's not that we have to do Ashwamedh Yagna, because for this age it's Sankirtan Yagna. So all we have to do is come to the temple, get in, get into the kirtan, the Sankirtan Yagna, then take up the beads, do the chanting. That is the Yagna for this age. And when we actually committed ourselves to that Yagna, we get rid of all the sins committed. So once when King Yudhishthira actually considered, he made up his mind to do this, then his brothers, they all went to different places and got all the opulences, so that that can be happening, the Ashwamedh Yagna. And also they invited Lord Krishna as a chief guest. And we know that when he came, he was asking, okay, so now I'm here, what service is there? And then she said, okay, the only service is there that when the sages comes, when the guest comes, we need someone to wash their feet. And Krishna took up that service again, such a, he is the Lord of the universe still. He's just out of no false ego, nothing. He just said, okay, I'll do it. And he just took that service. So then that Ashwamedh Yagna happened. Everything was in properly in the kingdom. Everyone is happy, and then after that, everybody actually requested the Lord that to please remain there for some times. And that's where we see that Queen Kunti Maharani and everyone came and requested the Lord for staying some time there in Hastinapur. So after that, the Lord stayed there for a few months, and then the last text of this chapter, text 36. O Shaunaka, thereafter the Lord, having bid farewell to King Yudhishthira, Draupadi, and other relatives, started for the city of Dwarka, accompanied by Arjuna and other members of the Yadu dynasty. So this is again now goes back to the previous chapter, right? So this is chapter 12, but then again we have previous chapter where Krishna's arrival to Dwarka. So that's why it just goes back and forth. So this is the end of chapter 12. Now we go into chapter 13. Now chapter 13 starts somewhere where we see that it's before that, where after the battle happened and Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was coronated as a king. And then we see that the chapter 13, which is the title is Dhritarashtra, which so this is just after the battle, Maharaj Yudhishthira became the king and he started ruling the kingdom. And at that point of time, what happened? That Vidura, he was in pilgrimage. So during the time of the Kurukshetra battle, he wasn't there. He actually went out for pilgrimage. But that at that point of time, he came to know that okay, the battle has been finished, and soon the Lord will finish his pastimes in this world. So then he actually decided that he will come back to this to Hastinapur. So just a background that what happened, like why Vidura left from Hastinapur, and we know that Vidura he is one of the brothers. So the three brothers, so Pandu, Dhritarashtra, and Vidura. Well, Vidura was born from he was born as a Sudra, right? But in terms of knowledge and in terms of he was very, very knowledgeable, and he was a very highly elevated personality. So they actually depended, both Pandu and Dhritarashtra, especially Dhritarashtra, really dependent on Vidura, for his wisdom, for his knowledge. But then what happened that Vidura, as we discussed yesterday, Vidura actually went to Dhritarashtra from the beginning, and he warned him about Duryodhana. He said time and again that, like, please, like, this boy, he is so envious. He is even envious of the Lord, of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Like, like usually we are envious about, like, about someone, like, our friends and family and things like that. But he is envious about even Krishna. Like, Krishna is here, we know he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all of us wants to serve him. But Duryodhan, he doesn't consider him as the God. He still consider him as a, like, cowherd boy. He thought, oh, he just came from Vrindavan, like, how come he become a king? Like, and he is not a king. I don't consider him that. Like, all that at the same time, he actually, more than Krishna, he really had much appreciation for Lord Balaram, because Lord Balaram was his, like, was his guru for, like, because they were, like, learning the clubs fighting from Balaram. But he always, like, has this kind of condescending attitude towards Krishna. So seeing those signs, Vidura always said, and then just before this battle start, he came to Dhritarashtra, like, and he's saying that, just like, the Pandavas, like, they are the rightful heirs of the throne, like, because Pandu was the first king, so their children should get they are the rightful heir, like, so just give them Hastinapur, or just give them the kingdom, but just don't give it to Duryodhan. Like, he is so envious, he will destroy everything. So somehow or other, this all, like, when Vidura, like, gave all this advice to Dhritarashtra, like, somehow or other, Duryodhan came to know about it, and he became so angry. He became so angry, like, he almost about to, like, kill Vidura, right? Like, even he just went to him and he blasphemed him like anything. He called him, like, son of Sudra, like, like he was his uncle, but there's nothing, like, no respect given. He's just saying him, like, just get out from here, like, you don't have any, like, you are not from a lineage of the kings, still we are, like, we are tolerating you, you are doing you, and you are just eating on our grain, and you are telling all this bad thing about me. How dare you, just get out of here. And he just, like, disrespected Vidura like anything. And Vidura, after that, and he knew that. And it's not like that when Duryodhana did that disrespect, he did it, like, like in private. He did it in front of everyone. So Bhishma was there, Drona was there, like, Dronacharya was there, Kripacharya was there, in front of all those stalwart, like, personalities from the dynasty. They didn't say anything also, because they knew that he is the son of Dhritarashtra, and they all looked at Dhritarashtra to say something. And as usual, Dhritarashtra, like, he didn't say anything. So anyway, Vidura, but then Vidura just took it that, okay, this is the will of the Lord. I have lived a life, a fulfilled life, where I have, like, I was the like, the prime minister of the kingdom. So now this is like, this is a will of the Lord, so I have to get out. So he just went out of the kingdom. How we know that from rags to the riches, here is like from riches to the rags. So he didn't took anything. He just went out and went to different pilgrimages and met with different sadhus, and then he was going different places. But then he came to know that, okay, now the time is arriving when the Lord will finish his pastimes and he will leave this planet. So then he started his journey. So at that point of time, what happened, that he met with Uddhava, and Uddhava actually just before that, Krishna recited the Uddhav Gita, like, which is in Canto 11 to Uddhava. And he also gave him the instructions that before. So he's saying that before I leave, this is my last instruction to you, Uddhava. So then Vidura asked Uddhava that, can you please also share with me those last instructions that the Lord shared with you? And he said that then Uddhava was felt like, now he was a little bit uncomfortable, because obviously Vidur, like, his Mahatma Vidur, he's like, so knowledgeable, so, like, he's so old, And then Uddhava, with his folded hand, requested that, look, can you can you please go and meet with Maitreya Muni, with Maitreya Rishi, and he actually also know what was the last, what are the last instructions, so he can tell you that. So Vidura said okay, and then Vidura left from there, and he went to meet with Maitreya Rishi, and then we see that conversation which is in Canto 3 and 4, the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. So after that, he actually it says that in this chapter 13, we see that in text 2, it's saying, after asking various questions and becoming established in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna, Vidura retired from putting questions to Maitreya Muni. So Vidura was asking all these questions to Maitreya Muni, and he was giving all this answer. And this is such a wonderful section of Srimad Bhagavatam, and which we will go through at some point of time. But then what happened? Just because we have to go through these chapters. So just in context of this chapter, that what happened, that after that Vidura returned to Hastinapur. So then in text 3 and 4, we read that when they saw Vidura return to the palace, all the inhabitants, Maharaj Yudhishthir, his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra, Satyaki, Sanjaya, Kripacharya, Kunti, Gandhari, Draupadi, Subhadra, Uttara, Kripi, many other wives of the Kauravas, and other ladies with children, all hurried to him in great delight. It so appeared that they had regained their consciousness after a long period. So Prabhupada explaining in the purport very nicely that just imagine this is the situation. What happened? That all these family members, they are like under so much sorrow after this insurmountable amount of death. Like everyone has lost someone in that battle, right? There was not a single family where there wasn't any death. So every family. So and when this amount of sorrow comes to some place, that place is actually all the senses becomes numb, and at some way, like the consciousness also doesn't, for a human being, obviously consciousness is there, but when someone goes to this kind of sorrow, this kind of situation, and sometimes like the consciousness also doesn't works, in a literal sense, our consciousness is there, but it just feels like, sometimes things happen in our life and we just feel okay, I just don't want to go anywhere, I just want to just sit here, I just don't want to listen to anything. Things happen to us like that. And after that huge battle, that also happened with all the inhabitants of Hastinapur. But then when they saw that Vidura is coming, and Vidura is coming after this battle, he wasn't part of the battle and he's coming, and he was dear to everyone. So everyone just felt this happiness. After so long time, they felt this happiness that, okay, someone is coming. So all the widows of the Kauravas, all the 100 brothers, all the widows, and then obviously it is mentioned like Yudhishthira and the brothers, Dhritarashtra, everyone felt okay, this is something to some joy, Allah, at last some joy is there. So that's why it's mentioned there that it so appeared that they had regained their consciousnness after a long period. So anyway, Vidura came, and with great delight they all approached him as if life have returned to their bodies. They exchanged obeisances and welcome each other with embraces. So due to the anxieties and long separation, they all cried out of affection. King Yudhishthir then arranged to offer sitting accommodation and a reception. So just one thing that before I forgot to mention, that before Vidura, after he had this all this his discussions with Maitreya Muni. One of the main things that he thought that he wants to come back to Hastinapur. Yes, the Lord is going to finish his pastime, but the other thing, he wanted to come back and he wanted to rescue King Dhritarashtra. And why is that? We are going to go through that, but that is one of his mission. that he wanted to come back and rescue Dhritarashtra, right? So just want to mention that as we are moving towards that section. So after Vidura met with everyone, and then he, after Vidura ate sumptuously and took sufficient rest, he was comfortably seated. Then the king began to speak to him, and all who were present, they listened. So, Yudhishthira Maharaj said that, my uncle, do you remember how you always protected us along with our mother from all sort of calamities? Your partiality, like the wings of bird, saved us from poisoning and arson. So Vidura, we know that when the house of lakhs, Duryodhan built that house of lakhs, that mansion of lakhs, and then he presented to the Pandavas, and he said, okay, yeah, this is from us, go and stay there. Vidura already knew that what was Duryodhan, intention. So without telling to Duryodhan, he built a tunnel beneath from that house, which comes out from that house, and then just when the Pandavas were there, so he said that in the night, just use that tunnel and get out from that house, because anything can happen. And Pandavas did that, and they were saved. So Vidura, and he was obviously he was always he saw that the Pandavas are on the side of the good and the Kauravas are on the side of the evil. So that's why he always was partial towards the Pandavas, and he saw the good nature of all the Pandavas. So then that's how he was. That's what Yudhishthira Maharaj is mentioning here. And then again, also mentioned in text 9, while traveling on the surface of the earth, how did you maintain your livelihood? At which holy places and pilgrimage site did you render service? So then, then continuing on that text number 10, that my Lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. So this is a very important verse. It's actually explain the glories of a devotee. So let's just quickly read the purport of this verse. The personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies everywhere, just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within space. Similarly, the Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. A pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and Lord in everything. The holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of the human being by an atmosphere's surcharge with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places, take lessons from them, try to apply such instructions in practical life, and thus gradually prepare oneself for the ultimate salvation, going back to the Godhead. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take the bath in Ganges or Yamuna or to visit the temple situated in those places. One should also find representatives of Vidura who have no desire in life save and expect to serve the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. The pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant, sing, and write of the glories of the Lord. Mahamuni Vyasadeva heard from Narada, and then he chanted in writing. Sukadeva Goswami studied from his father, and he described it to Parikshit. That is the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. So by their actions, the pure devotees of the Lord can render any place into a place of pilgrimage. and the holy places are worth the name only on their account. Such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmospheres of any place, and what to speak of a holy place rendered unholy by the questionable actions of interested persons who try to adopt a professional life at the cost of reputation of a holy place. So here Prabhupada is explaining that for a devotee who is surrendered to the Lord, wherever they go, that place becomes a pilgrimage. Like when we go to the pilgrimage, so for example, for us, most of us, we go to Mayapur. But then what we do in Mayapur, okay, we go and we take an accommodation somewhere within the complex, and then first thing we go to the temple, we take darshan of the deities, and then what we do, then we sit down to and listen to the classes given by, obviously when we are in Mayapur, like either some maharajas or sannyasis, they are giving the classes, so we listen to those classes. Then we visit all the different nine islands because of Navadvip. So we go to different places, and then also when we're visiting those places, what we do, that we take devotees with us. Like, we travel with the devotees, and the devotees, they actually glorify those places for us. Let us know that, what is the glories of those places. So most of the time, it's actually, we think that, these places are something we are getting benefit out of. No, it's those devotees who are there in the yatra, those devotees who are leading the yatras, right? And we go like Navadvip Parikrama or Govardhan Parikrama. It's the places are already there, and there is some spiritual potency, like, in those places. But is because of those devotees, those spiritual potencies actually magnifies 1,000 times more, because those devotees, they are surrendered in the service of the Lord, and their service is to take all the devotees and then glorify the, like, all the wonderful things about those places. And what happened, that when we sit down there and listen to all those glories, then our heart also started to get, like, transformed. When we listen from them, then they're saying, okay, here where the Lord has done this pastime, where this happened, where that happened, and we feel so much closer to the Lord when that happened. But imagine if those devotees are not there, and if we just go and just, like, okay, we take a car and we just go, okay, this is this place, just have a look, and then, okay, offer our obeisances, then come back. No, it will not be that effective. It will only be effective when we will have the devotees association with us. And specifically here, Srila Prabhupada mentioned that when you go to a holy pilgrimage, like, as we say in India, first look for those pure devotees, because they are the one who actually will take us closer to the Lord. It's not that beneficial that we just go to some holy places and pilgrimage, and then just, like, take a bath in Ganga and Yamuna, or visit the temple which is situated there. So we have to find those pure devotees in there and take their association, because of their unalloyed service, which is without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian speculation. Like, this utopian speculation, what does it mean? That they are not like, coming up with anything from their own head. They are in that place, they are in that kshetra, like, where the leelas happen, and they're simply just explaining it. And they have heard it from the scriptures. They found it from the scriptures, like, which they have heard from different devotees, and from the like, bona fide representatives. And that's what they are telling us. It's not like, the speculations, they are making some kind of speculation, or they are making up something. Like, unfortunately there are places there also, that where we say that, okay, devotees, like, you shouldn't go there, because where people just made up stories. Like, you go there and they said, oh, look at this well, this is the well where Radha and Krishna perform. Like, they came and they actually perform their dance there, and people actually felt, oh, so wonderful, what should we do here? Oh, there is a box of the donation, please put some donation. That's what. That's eventually what that comes down to. So there is a box of donation, so you just put a donation there. But that's all. They are just doing this so that they can fill their own pocket. But a true devotee, they will never do that. What they will do that, okay, I will this is my duty, that I have came to know about this this wonderful glories of the Lord, and this is what I'm going to distribute to everyone. So that's why it's so wonderful is here that and then those devotees, wherever they goes, even they come out from this holy pilgrimage and they go to somewhere else, those places are also becomes the holy pilgrimage. And that's what Yudhishthira Maharaj is actually implying here for Vidura. So that is text number 10. We just wanted to cover a few more verses today. And then in the next text number 11, Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying, "My uncle, you must have visited Dwarka. In that holy place are our friends and well-wishers, the descendants of Yadu, who are always wrapped in the service of the Lord Krishna. You might have seen them or heard about them. Are they all living happily in their abodes?" Thus, being questioned by Maharaj Yudhishthir, Mahatma Vidura gradually described everything he had personally experienced, except the news of annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. Now, and sorry, just let me just read the next one also, text number 13. Compassionate Mahatma Vidura could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable and unbearable incident, because calamities come from their own accord. So, so here, Vidura, obviously, his purpose was coming here because he knew that the Lord is going to finish his pastime and the Yadu dynasty will be annihilated. But he didn't say that to the Pandavas because they were very close to the Lord and the Yadus. So that's why he didn't want to tell them. He's just thinking, okay, let it come as part of the time, because the calamities come their own accord. It's he didn't want to tell that to them. Then Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like godly persons by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his elder brother, and in this way bring happiness to all others. So here, Vidura then stayed there, and then, as I said, one of his main mission was to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother. So, of his eldest brother is Dhritarashtra. As long as Vidura played the part of a Sudra being cursed by Manduka Muni, Aryama officiated at the post of Yamraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. Right? So, we know that the background of Vidura, how Yamraj was cursed by Manduka Muni. And then, but as Vidura played the part of Sudra, then also, but all the other work was doing in the same way in the Yamaloka. Text 16, having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson, competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhishthir reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence in cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrator to the common people. Insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thought. So that is text number 17. So we will start from here, because here it's saying that Vidura started living there, and then what's the situation is now started to come, and then how he is going to rescue Dhritarashtra, and then which eventually led Dhritarashtra to leave the kingdom. So thank you all very much for joining today. We finish it here. Vancha kalpataruvasya kripa sindhu vayavacha patithanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Shila Gurudev ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.